Politically for Australia, I think this was a good day. I know most interest is in the coalition, the new team announced today, but they are frankly pretty irrelevant at the moment. So let me start with the Albanese government. This might be tough for Conservatives to hear, but good for the country. The Prime Minister today signalled he is not letting his massive win go to his head, he hopes, and, then lurching left, rather the opposite. Now, I don't mean there wasn't more boasting today, there sure was.
And now that we have a caucus which is 124 strong, the largest ALP caucus that has ever existed in the federal parliament.
But look at what Anthony Albanese is doing, at least today. This former firebrand from the Labor left, the man who in his first speech as Prime Minister 3 years ago vowed to divide Australians by race with his radical voice to Parliament, I think it's changed a bit, I hope. As I've noticed before, he doesn't want to be the radical now. He wants to be more in the centre, more like Menzies, Curtin and Howard, and last as long as Howard. And I think we saw that today. First, he, or formerly his new Environment Minister, Murray Watt to be precise, approved the extension of the massive North West Shelf gas project for another 40 years after spending the last 3 years delaying this increase in fossil fuels, wicked. But he had to really, now with his green energy plans in chaos. The other good thing today was Albanese refusing to join other countries in imposing sanctions on Israel over the war in Gaza. Now, for the last 3 years, it seemed to go out of his way attacking Israel, voting against it in the United Nations, but today, there was this.
Now, we follow our own path and Australia determines our own foreign policy, and we've been very consistent the whole way through. And what people don't say when they put forward ideas like this is what that means. We currently have, for example, unlike some of those countries, we don't provide military assets to Israel or to that region. So we're in different circumstances.
I know it's early days and these are very small steps, and we can't forget that Labor still doesn't have any agenda to make this economy stronger and more productive, to make houses affordable, to strengthen our military, to make electricity cheaper and more secure. All those problems are still there. But now the coalition, and I think it's more good news for the country. I also think it's a tick for new Liberal leader Sussan Ley. The coalition is back together again today after a brief spat, some miscommunications, some misjudgements, but that's all over for now. And I actually felt, looking at Ley and Nationals leader David Littleproud today, that they did seem determined to get on a lot better. And any trouble in this relationship, I think, probably won't come from either of them.
I want to thank you, David, for the respectful and productive way that you and I have engaged throughout this process. And I know that we will be a great partnership going forward.
Now to the new ministry, shadow ministry. Now, on the whole, I do think it's good. Importantly, there's some fresh talent. And even more important is that future stars have been given important new responsibilities to the ones they formerly had to round them out for high office. I think that's great. There are some losers I'll get to, a bit of punishment as well, and some promotion of left-wing power brokers, Ley being from the Liberal left, cronies, I guess, Alex Hawke, for instance. But first, the winners. I'll just go through the most significant. The Shadow Treasurer is Ted O'Brien. Now, he could choose that portfolio as the Deputy Liberal leader, and let's see how it goes. But underneath him, some very good backup. James Patterson, who was Home Affairs, is now Shadow Finance Minister. That is critical new economic experience for a future high flyer. And the newly re-elected Tim Wilson, he's going to head up industrial relations, employment and small business. I tell you, that guy is not going to sit on his hands. So that is solid if O'Brien performs like he should. And I think that's a team that could put some heat on the government. Former soldier Andrew Hastie. Now, is being tipped by many as a future Prime Minister. He moves from Defence to Home Affairs. Again, that is broadening him out. And Jacinta Nampijinpa-Price, who's a real star, goes from Indigenous Australians to defence industries to show she's about a lot more than race politics, which I think is critical. You know, building our military, I think that's a great fit for her. Now, for those saying, oh, look, Nampijinpa-Price, she should have got much more, a little reminder, she's only been in the job for 3 years. Best walk before you run. So this seems a team picked with some sensitivity and smarts. Now, just rattling through a couple more before I get to the losers and the meat today. Michaelia Cash, Foreign Affairs. Okay, whatever. Julian Leeser is back as Shadow Attorney General. Now, I know he quit over The Voice. He was for it, stupidly, but he is a talent. Angus Taylor is shifted from Treasurer to Defence. Had to be, if only because, well, look, talented as he is in financial matters, he was the Shadow Treasurer who was promising higher taxes than Labor. So that was just too much of a target for Labor anyway. And Giselle Kapterian, she goes straight into the Shadow Ministry, Communications, one of several fresh faces, despite not even being in Parliament before today. And I think it's just pretty talented too. And these changes will make the Liberal Party seem quite different, which is very important. Now, the one really, really key move. The person picked to sort out what the coalition wants to do about nuclear power and net zero. I mean, will the coalition fight the net zero target that's been wholly writ until now? Fight it like a lot of Nationals and some Liberals now want. Well, that job is going to former immigration spokesman Dan Tehan. This man is very careful, very meticulous, is workmanlike, and is being given a fairly long leash, possibly even to be able to say no to net zero, judging from what Ley was hinting today.
Australia does have to play its part in the global response to climate change, but not at any cost. You can't have an energy policy that crashes our energy grid, and you have to recognise the great manufacturing base of this country and is built on reliable, secure baseload power.
Now, of course, I'd like her to give less credence to the climate change scare than she does. But you can't have everything, and I guess you've got to play it safe. But this is the area where the coalition will really be tested. Now the losers. Jane Hume is dumped as finance spokesman, out of the ministry completely. I mean, she's got talent, but she was blamed for the Liberals' disastrous working from home policy, and she's got to cop that, I guess. Sarah Henderson also gone, replaced by the up-and-coming Jonathan Duniam in education. Barnaby Joyce and Michael McCormack, both former Nationals leaders, both dumped by their Nationals leader after plotting against them. I guess that is what that's about, although they were told it was for generational change. They're not buying it and they're not happy.
Well, I wouldn't be human if I didn't say I was disappointed, but I still have a lot to offer. I mean, I was told that it was generational change, and a couple of those people who are going to get jobs are actually older than me, so...
I'll talk to Barnaby tomorrow about his reaction too. These dumpings could cause some dissent. But all in all, I do think this is a future-looking team, looking fresh where it counts, and again I will say that Ley has here passed a test and shown a new leadership style.
I've communicated with every member of my party room, all 54, because this is a team that draws on the deep well of the Australian experience. It includes those who've served in uniform, migrants, and the descendants of the oldest continuous culture on earth.
There'll be more tests to come though. I know I said the Liberals are almost irrelevant. I mean, particularly after their hiding in the election. I mean, the numbers, oh dear. But it is critical for the country that an opposition is strong enough to hold the government to account, to expose and punish its mistakes, to keep it focused and less arrogant. So today I thought both sides a win and a win. So let the battle for our future resume.